We live? And now? Okay. Oh, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Could I have someone who's prepared to open with the Karakia? Councillor Cretney, thank you.
Mai te poe mōna raro ki te kai, mai te awatonga raro ki te awaraki, tēnei te hapuri awhi ai e taratahi, whānau, hara mai te tōki, haumi e, nui e, taike.
Kia ora, thank you, Councillor Cretney. Apologies, do we have any? I think we have a full house today. Thank you. No apologies. Moving forward, conflicts of interest. Are there any declarations? Oh, sorry. We haven't received an apology. Have we received an apology? No, we haven't. Conflicts of interest. Councillor Cretney.
Thanks, His Worship. Item 7.2, abstaining from the vote.
2 being R2R. As trustee. Thank you. Are there any else? No, moving forward. Public forum, we have indication that we have 2 people who wish to present a public forum. First, Catherine Rossiter-Stead. Welcome to the table, Catherine, from the Cullen Swimming Club pool project.
Indoor pool project, that's right. Kia ora koutou, ho, Catherine Rossiter-Stead, aho.
Yeah.
I'm just to learn how to do this, thank you. I'm not here to ask you anything, believe it or not. I'm here just to, first of all, say thank you. I came a few months ago to ask for to be able to use the outdoor pool to help with the Cardigan Indoor Pool Project's fundraiser, the Central ITM Big Swim, which we used on the Sunday, and we had a fantastic afternoon with the community, which was great. But I'm also here to give you an update on where we're at with the fundraising. I believe 1 or 2 of the management and CEO met with the building project team on Monday. I won't.
Catherine, sorry, you can please say it if you.
Oh, I'm actually
Okay.
So I'm not going to go into any details about the building or the project update from that perspective because there's more information to come around that. But what I do want to do is just give you a very quick update about the actual fundraiser. So if you want to pass these just around, you'll see on the back of this update some lovely photographs. So just to summarise how we did, I think when we came, there was this big audacious goal that we wanted to swim 1 million metres to raise $1 million. If you remember, we are trying to raise at least $1.7 million to upgrade the building, or actually build a new building and upgrade the full pool facilities so that the pool is actually accessible to a much wider audience, a much wider, more diverse user from the community. At the moment, any of you been in the pool, you'll notice that it's pretty rusty and pretty mouldy. So it'll be a real improvement to have that. So the big swim actually took part during the month of March. We had 1 weekend where we had an intense activity at the pool. We had over 340 participants, including 200 school kids who came in on the Thursday, and swam for 6 hours continuously. I think they swam about 19K or something, so it's pretty cool. Meters covered, well, we smashed the 1 million metres goal. We actually covered 2,552,083 metres, and that included 2 tow pool crossings of 42 kilometres each, which is really cool. It was a group in Wellington, an open water group, who got behind our cause. They know how important it is to have an indoor pool, particularly in a landlocked area like the Wairarapa. And so they really got behind the campaign and helped promote it around their own groups. So that was really cool. I think they swam about 640,000 metres as a group. We actually managed to raise just over $52,000 through this campaign. I was stoked with that. it would have been great to have raised $1 million, but of course, as you all know, it's not easy to raise money for things like this. But what it has done is it's put a stake in the ground to grant funders to say not only we're willing to raise our own money to back this project, but actually the community really are behind us, and it's been fantastic. I can't tell you. The stories, one was at our wrap evening on Monday night, the stories of the individual people who took part in this event, they're incredible. You know, there's one lady who turned up every morning with her two whānau, and they swam a total of 30K each. So they wanted to swim 1K a day, and they achieved that, and she's still swimming at the pool. She didn't know she could swim there. It's a perfect example. They think the pool is closed. It's not. It's open to community. You know, the doors are open. You just put your $5 in the trust box, you know, the collection box at the front, and you can swim. So that was one of the you know, those. I can go on forever, but I'll take up the 5 minutes. So just to show that this project, this campaign has highlighted, there's a pool, an indoor pool in Carterton, not just an indoor pool in Carterton, but an indoor pool in the southern Wairarapa. We have people coming from Featherston, Martinborough. I'm from Greytown, and I use the pool regularly. So, yeah, I just want to make sure it's in front of mind, it's in your conscious. I want you to know that we're really behind this project as a community, but we've had great support from our community. I mean, if you looked at the number of businesses, I think your business also supported Almost Books, yeah.
Modest way.
Supported the event. I mean, it's so good that we've got that community engagement now, and hopefully it'll support our fundraising efforts going forward. So just for your calendars, next March, I'm hoping to, one of my, if you're not aware, but one of my backgrounds is cycling. So I'm hoping to hold a mountain bike and a run on Maureen and Mike Ashby's farm next March if the weather's good. That will be supported by Rotary and the Lions. And then later in the year, this is next year in August, or hopefully the 23rd of August, which is the anniversary of the opening of this pool, is the 22nd of August. And it was opened in 1987. So I think it's the 38th anniversary. I've spoken to Dame Valerie Adams' manager, who is very keen to support this event. They've given me a community rate if she is available. If she's not, Dame Sophie Pascoe is the alternative guest speaker. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, because you always say these things and they get jinxed. All going good. We'll have a high-profile speaker for our dinner, and we'll do a proper fundraising dinner with auctions. What I'd like to, I'm speaking to a local sponsor, not Central ITM, another sponsor, who I'm asking for them to sponsor some discounted tables as well, so we can invite kids from other sports groups, not just swimming, other sports groups, to come and hear what these speakers have to say. Hopefully they'll be motivated and inspired by what he says. So these are things that are in the pipeline. So the big fundraisers, and we'll continue with the usual fundraisers, the Kylie Daffodil Festival, the Scarecrow Festival, and all those things that we've been doing. Any questions?
Questions around the table? Anyway, I'll start by acknowledging Councillor Newman's mammoth swimming effort.
Oh, sorry, I should have mentioned that.
23K.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your support. I mean, it's so good. Seriously, so good. And I did recognise some of you came along to the community day on the Sunday, and I know, Ron, that you've been really supportive as well. Thank you. So yeah, any questions?
Questions from the table? All good.
Okay, so I do expect
Thank you for the update.
Central. So see you guys hopefully for the dinner.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Next in the public forum is John Dow, who's online speaking for the Gold Awards. John, the floor is yours for 5 minutes. There you go.
Sorry, we'll just unmute you, John. Can you unmute yourself?
Still mute. You're still on mute, John. Your microphone's turned off.
Oh, we might have done it at our end.
We're checking our end.
Here we go.
Aye, we're good.
Is that okay now?
Yes, got you.
Yeah, sorry, it was at both ends, I think, but now, okay, we're all clear. So you can see me all right?
Good to see you, John.
Okay, look, thank you very much for the opportunity and obviously for your support over many, many years now. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Goldwoods, we've been going for, well, we've had 25 years. This is our 26th year. And we really got underway after an economic forum in 1998, which was held at Avalon in Lower Hutt, which sort of was aiming to address some of the wider issues that were being faced in the whole region, essentially, with head offices moving away and businesses closing down. And of course, this was all pre the film industry taking off and also pre-IT. And in those days, emails and websites and various other things were just in their very, very early days. So we've come a long way in that whole period of time. And of course, the Wairarapa joined us officially in 2013. So you've been involved for about 12 years now. And we established a very special rate, I suppose, to make it cost effective, where it was shared across Masterton and South Wairarapa councils as well. So we're keen to sort of retain that. Basically, it's a $5,000 split three ways, which works out to be $1,667 plus GST that each council pays. So that's been the arrangement that's been in place for the last 13 years. And both Masterton and South Wairarapa have confirmed again for this year. And, we're underway. We had a full page advertisement in the Post yesterday. They've continued as our lead sponsor. We get about 20 placements overall, so we get quite extensive coverage. We had a full page in the big Saturday paper just the other day as well. So they're very committed. And it is very much a public-private sector partnership, which, the business community really do appreciate. And we've maintained that throughout the whole period of time. And I think the key thing with the Goldwoods is it does present this amazing regional economy. It's extraordinary what's going on, obviously, in the Wairarapa and how that interrelates with the rest of the region, particularly Wellington, with a lot of people visiting and buying houses up there. In fact, Gail and Phil, who are part of our team, live in the Wairarapa and just down the road. So there is a lot of interaction. We also supported and helped the Wairarapa Business Awards get established, working with Catherine Rossiter-Stead a few years ago, and I was involved in helping set that up so that the Wairarapa had their own awards, and was the judging convener in the first year and helped establish the different categories and the processes, and basically passed all our IP and everything over at no cost, which we're very happy to do because we like to support other businesses and also initiatives that are supporting the wider business community. So that was part of what we've done. And we're underway now. Our finalist, we have a finalist function, announcement function, which is July the 5th at the Whariwaka here in Wellington, and then the big night's confirmed for the 22nd of August. So, Ron, you invited us along to basically, I suppose, present who we are and what we're doing, and obviously to answer any questions. So happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Floor's open. I think most people are familiar with the Gold Awards. Any questions? Done. Deputy Mayor. Yep.
Yeah, not to you, John. Thank you for that. Jeff, where is that funded from? Which budget do we fund that from?
Our economic development budget.
Is that? Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Other questions? I have one. Just refresh me, John. How many Wairarapa businesses were in the last year's finals? I think we had my recollection is about 3 of them, but I can't quite.
Yeah, there was about 3 or 4. We've had quite a few. We've had 7 winners across from Masterton across the different categories over the years. There's been quite a few. I mean, obviously we've had wins over Wairarapa, Golden Shares, Transit Group, Farm Focus, Power Shop, Pukeahu, Mount Bruce have won their categories. So those are, they've come through quite strongly. We had Atarangi, actually, I know that's South Wairarapa, win the Supreme Award. So that was a very popular and good win. And that was about 10 years ago. And we've had others like Toast Martinborough, and obviously from Carterton we had Milky Way Star Safari was a finalist last year, and I believe that's helped their business quite a bit. It's a good profile for them, and they've had a steady flow of people going through. We've had Clareville Bakery, Total Roll, and My Trucking. So we've had a very good response and involvement right across the Wairarapa, right throughout the whole time you've been involved.
Good. Any other questions? Nothing else? Look, John, that doesn't appear to be any questions. So look, thank you very much for taking time to do the presentation, and
Yes.
well, I guess there'll be an application will come through, or we just deal with that. Thank you.
As usual.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're happy to provide you the documentation, obviously. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your
Good seeing
time.
you again. Okay.
All right. We'll see you again
Yes, sir.
soon.
Righty. Bye-bye. Okay, so that concludes public forum. Youth Council agenda items. Are there any? Youth Council?
Yep.
Jesse?
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Josie.
Hey, Josie. Thanks, Catherine.
I would like to start by thanking you all. Those of you who were able to make it on Monday, and those of you who at least thought about coming and were there on the last meeting where we all met together. Thank you. And then I would like to talk about the Georgina Beyer statue, which we, as a youth council, think is an amazing idea, but we do wonder if there would be any money reserved for in the event of a defacing, as well. Carterton may want to celebrate such a momentous person. People may see it as a sign to say their political views and opinions out there, sadly. So that's just our thoughts on that situation. Yeah.
Thoughtful. Very thoughtful. Any questions?
Thank you for your hospitality on Monday and the pizza. Awesome.
One thing you'll know, we'll always have pizza.
Oh, that now. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Thank you for this. Okay. Moving forward. Confirmation, item 6.1, minutes of the ordinary council meeting 27th of March 24. Take that as read. Is there anyone who wishes to move that they are true and accurate record? Deputy Mayor moving and Councillor Newman seconding. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item 7.1, destination Wairarapa.
If I may, Your Worship. I'm sure the council is aware of, have met Anna before, but I also invited to this meeting Roger Wigglesworth, Dr. Wigglesworth is our appointee on the board of Destination Wairarapa, and I thought it was worthwhile, particularly as we're about to head through the long-term plan session, to invite Wigglesworth to come and join us and discuss not just the report that's in front of us today, but other issues that the council may be interested in. So I'll ask him.
Over to you.
Kia ora koutou katoa. Nice to see you. Look, we had the summer that we wanted, which is fantastic. And in fact, for a bit of forecast rain today, which we're all hanging out for. Long may it last. It is bringing the numbers in. I'm sure you've seen them through the main streets, out into the flower patches, or the wine and food festivals, or the plant fairs, the things that are happening around here, and I couldn't be happier. We know that Wellington loves us. We know that we are their playground.
Unfortunately, MB with their data, I'm not sure what's happened there. It's been paused. It hasn't, in terms of spend, it hasn't had anything for a wee while. I suspect they succumbed or succumbed. I'm not quite sure which way to say that word, but to the cuts that are happening, and that will come back at some point. But we do have the accommodation data, and we saw that we're 9.9% up on year in February the year previous, which was up on the year previous to that. When you drill down into the numbers a bit further, we see that 22% of that is international. And if you recall, last time I was here, I was talking about the need for us to build our international profile, because that will help build resilience when we have these sort of economic shocks, whether it's domestic or international. So that's really pleasing. And a lot of that has to do is we are developing product. We are creating things that internationals will come to the region and purchase and buy. It makes them stay longer, spend more, inject stuff and enthusiasm and their own bit of their parts of the world into our culture here, which is, it benefits of us all, not just economically, but socially and as well. So it's been very pleasing. It's nice to be able to sit here with knowing where we were at in October and understanding also it's part of the economic sort of waves, comes and goes. We were in this position back in the global financial crisis. People, as long as we maintain our relevance, as long as we maintain people coming here, they may not spend as much during these hard times, but if they're coming here and they're enjoying our environment and not moving somewhere else and going somewhere else, then that's really, really important that we maintain that audience. Any questions?
Anything to add first?
Yeah, look, just a couple of things. One is there are a number of things going on, like the new conference centre in Wellington. And what often happens is when you have a big conference, say, I don't know, medical specialists, then they break into their little sections and the arm people go one way and the leg people go another way. So the idea is that hopefully we get the expensive ones coming over here as a part of a breakout from a conference. So keeping in with that builds up our international standing, and so they're not really tourists, but people who are coming here for an event. The board of Destination Wairarapa are facing a challenge. We've had 3 good years thanks to a generous government throwing money at us to be able to do more, to keep tourism alive in the economy, and that's been good. But that's now finished. And so we're having to look very hard at what money we've got. We will, of course, be putting in our very well-researched, very well-argued claim for money for the next 3 years from you as part of the LTP. But I think that what we're looking at is trying to work out. We got a bit of a chicken and egg, really. The question is, do you try to create new product in the hope that people will come because you've got something new, bright and shiny for them, or do you try and increase the number of people just coming through so that people who have new products will actually see the opportunity and jump into it? So so the board's working out where to put the bulk of its attention, and at the moment we're still absolutely working out, but we're really of a mind that putting more into marketing, getting more people over here, will then attract product developers to say, hey, there's an opportunity, I'll jump in there, as opposed to going out and trying to rally up product developers who are usually not very rallyable. So we've got that challenge, and so the board's been having several strategic planning sessions that Anna's helped to facilitate for us, and we'll be getting very close to getting a plan finalised in time for our financial year, which is the 1st of July.
Okay. Questions around the table, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Roger and Anna. When the board works through that process and say it decides that it's going to market the region, what does it market? Like give me a snapshot of what the region is the value of the region or the point of difference of the region that makes it more marketable in terms of incentivising international people to come here and not there, not Kapiti or not anywhere else.
Did you want me to add?
Yes,
Yeah.
well, yeah. You go ahead now, I can add to what you say.
Well answered, Roger.
Lots of other regions have nice vineyards, nice restaurants. We have beaches. They're very different to the Kapiti Coast beaches. What makes the point of difference is our stories and why people came to live here originally. And whether it was early settlers or whether it was early people, so Māori coming to live here. And a lot of it is around our food and beverage. So it's about them creating an economy or a business for themselves, providing for their families, whether you were 100 years back, 200 years back, 10 weeks ago. Often our point of difference is land-based. And therefore, the reason why people come here is because of those experiences. Meeting the people who grow the stuff or make the stuff here in our sense of place is something that we promote. That's how we would market the region. So whether that's cycling through the region, slow tourism, and enjoying the atmosphere, purchasing some Fijoas at the bottom of somebody's gate that's out there for free, or whether on the other spectrum of that, if you're going to Utarangi for the full noise wine tasting experience or the wine and food festival, that is the other side of it. But it's all about celebrating what we have here and the stories and the people is how we market the region. Some of it's free, which is fine. It's part of what makes our community who we are, but some of it's not, and that's where we derive an economic benefit from tourism, and it adds to our communities, and it means that a nice restaurant or a good bottle of wine or a quality experience, going up to do the dark skies and just here in Carterton and learning about cultivation, navigation, stars, moons, galaxies.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'll add to that. That one of the things that we have been developing over the last 2 or 3 years is our social media presence. And so it's not just, you'll find us on Facebook, but actually we know who you are and what you want. So we're trying to, again, putting together packages that speak into what the people who are interacting with us through our social media want. And that's another.
Thank you. I was just because we just had a couple of casual conversations the last day or two, some of us around driving improvement in business and so forth. So I guess if DW is marketing to the public from a top down, in other words, please get in your car or your bike and come over here, any work that we do locally needs to be driving from the bottom up and using the same language and marketing to the same people, not necessarily new business, but strengthening existing business so that they're aligned in the marketing. And I just,
That is absolutely correct, because if we're saying the same message, we'll get better cut through. And that's whether we're talking to businesses who want to come here and invest or are existing here, or people who are visitors. So most people who have arrived in the region, if they aren't born and bred here, they've come from somewhere else as a visitor. In fact, if you go further, way back, they've visited the place before they've said, right, we're actually going to move and we're going to buy a house, build a business, invite our family, grow bigger from that. I just want to give you an example. I was here last night, roughly 70 people. Agritourism is what we're talking about. Now, do you know that was the first time that there was an agritourism networking opportunity, I think in the Wairarapa. And I've been involved in food and beverage and tourism for quite some time. And there's a lot of interest. There's a lot of people who see the opportunity and they want to develop their own businesses for their whānau, for their family, for their friends. And that sitting in this room last night was so great to be making those steps in the right direction from ground up, as you say.
Thank you. Any other questions, Councillor?
membership income's nearly $9,000 out of a revenue of like 100 times that. Is it worthwhile charging membership fees?
So that is year to date.
Yeah.
Our membership year goes from April through to March. So our membership invoices are just going out now. And so you'll see in the next quarter, the bulk of that money coming in.
So how much is it roughly?
It $50,000-$60,000.
Okay.
It's substantial, and it's tiered, depending on the level of engagement and what we can do for businesses as well.
Skin in the game.
Yeah, that's right.
And ultimately, as the incorporated society we have to have members. So but I think you're pointing accurately to the point that their contribution is small in regard to the wider contribution we get from others.
Yeah, I guess the back of my mind was if your membership fees were nothing or $1, you might get a lot more buy-in from, or not free in from, maybe there'd be more.
Membership fees range from $1,500 down to $200.
Category. Any other questions?
Thank you.
I have one, and it's probably board level. CDC, Carterton is part of a joint collective agreement where we, the three councils fund, and of course Carterton being the smaller councils, its funding is around 44K, but just short of 45. And at the moment, Masterton's the bulk because that's where most of the business is. And of course, South Wairarapa's contribution is quite high, considerably higher now, but it's clearly because of the tourism and the food and wine industry and everything they have going on down there. But we try to look at this as a Wairarapa good thing, which we get something out of. So we're in there. But are you, as a board, looking to make a submission on the master? Have you done an evaluation of the risk to Destination Wairarapa of the proposed change in policies of Marsden District Council, given their LTP consultation document, which is Destination Wairarapa being put into a box where it has to, move into contestable funding, where Destination Wairarapa has to bid for the contract. South Wairarapa's not doing that. Carterton's not doing that. I'm very unclear as to how this is going to work if Masterton goes alone and says it's contestable, but the other two councils are not of that view. I'm also wondering how the boards does the board have any considerations around risk threat to Destination Wairarapa's functioning and ability to meet its goals and its targets with reduced funding if that ended up being the net result of Masterton's consultation. I guess my point is I'm looking at the helicopter view. This is a deal we're all in for the betterment of the whole. South Wairarapa and Carterton seem to be aligned and continuing. We've had 4 mayors, countless councils, and every council, Masterton Council to date, has stuck with the deal, but this council is proposing an opt-out or a different change. How is your board discussing this? Is your board doing a risk assessment? What do you see the issues are for you?
So we clearly see the risk. And the risk is partly we'll be able to do our function, but more importantly, we'll be able to retain staff if, in fact, year on year, we're not sure if we can pay them. So we're doing a couple of things. I mean, there's a lot of very careful lobbying going on. We're going to make a very, very strenuous response to the LPT, so that we're saying, look, as an organisation, what are you delivering outcome for you? This isn't going to work. But at the same time, we're saying to ourselves, well, we've got there's another whole year of funding, so it wouldn't kick in until 2025. But as a board, we're looking at that risk, and what might happen in the event that does get passed as a part of their LTP, but we're hopeful that reason will prevail.
Did the board of directors get a heads up from Marsden District Council that this was something they were going to propose?
I think there was murmurings that this was something that they were thinking about.
There's no consultation.
No.
No, not at all.
Just a bit blindsided.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that. But the reason I ask is this will shape, this is going to have an impact on Cardiff and South Wairarapa and ultimately from what I can see. So that's the strategic question. I guess the other question, I had a number of things. Anna, thank you for the report. The international tourism guest nights, did I read that correctly, up 47.7%? Did I read that correctly on page?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the driver around that international? That's a huge surge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And tell me, where's it centred more within the Wairarapa?
Oh, a lot are coming to here because they're going to Star Safari.
Right.
And also Stonehenge.
Yeah.
So the dark sky is, I know it's only been happening for a year, but we've been actively working that in the international market. We've got trends next week, but we've been up with what they call the inbound traders, who are the people that step before you get here. And we've been promoting dark sky for some time as an international option, and the same as Roger was saying with business events. So any of those large events that are coming into Tākina, you know, the leg people, perhaps from medical council, we've been getting them over, and how we promote it, and I'll put in layman's terms, is bed, dinner, bed and a show, which is the night sky viewing. So whether you're up here at Star Safari or you're on your own property somewhere, the dark sky is really creating awe and wonder and a refreshing, something extra, a little bit of something special for this region. And because we do have the infrastructure of some good accommodation, some nice wine, some nice food, I mean, I can't wait for Ula to open. I mean, they tell me about mid-July, and it's just going to be so exciting because then we've got just so much more to offer. But it really is. They're seeing us, and they know what we've got on offer, and that's what I'm most excited about. It's after 4 years of hard slog with COVID and borders closed and all sorts of things going on, we've really got this incredible opportunity to leverage this lovely reserve. And it's more than just money. It's the conservation, it's the environment, it's the ability for Māori to tell their story through this medium.
Fantastic. Are there any other questions? Oh. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, we have one recommendation that we received a report. Councillor Robin Cherry Campbell has moved and Councillor Dalla has seconded. All in favour? Aye. Against? Motion was carried. Thank you. That was very enlightening. 7.2. Update from Atua. Ready to rock and roll. Rock and roll.
Right, I'll invite Glenda and Wayne. We'll take the detail. That's okay.
Kia ora koutou. So Atua have a 5-year funding agreement with us, and a requirement of that funding is that they come to council once a year and present on where things are at and how they're tracking. That normally takes place in the March meeting, or the later meeting where we have young people coming in, so the same with the youth council, but unfortunately they weren't available to attend then. So we have now moved this to this meeting, but there's also an additional update which is included in the report. So I'll let Wayne give his update and then we'll just go through that with them.
Kia ora koutou katoa, malo level is for my langi ma, His Worship the Mayor, Deputy Mayor Dale, councillors and council staff and representation from Youth Council. Nice to be here today. I'll take it that what we've been given has been read in respect to your report and everything else, that the link that was viewed hopefully by you all. around what we've been doing. Since 2013, when Atua started, we started engaging with them as a village from 2019. We found that joining together and working together collectively, we were able to achieve more. But still, we needed to still hold on to the funding that we have separately, because there are still different things that we do, but there are some commonalities. In respect to what we're doing now is that we're focusing on our voice and leadership through young people. And what we've been doing is we're focusing on some of the things we're doing now. Around the last novel that we had was about community storytelling workshops, looking at public art projects that Atua has been involved in previously around the murals. We've also looked at youth leadership around programs around community events like Colour Run, the murals at the pools, like I've said, but we've also looked at cultural celebration. What does that actually look like for us? Because what we're actually trying to create is what does it take to be a positive young person and a citizen of Karakia, and making sure that they hold on to that identity in a positive way. So getting involved in community service projects and various other things. We have a cultural exchange program now. We've been busy with the Cook Islands around our young people understanding what it is to be Pacifica. So we went there last year to just, check out the land and survey what we can do. And so we have a team over there ready to exchange, and our team to visit there and learn about the Cook Islands. And also we have a team in Samoa that are willing to take us on to learn more about culture and bring that back here, but also share our own from Karakia and various other things. What we've been doing lately too is also we have a huge input from families, from whānau that previously weren't interacting with Atua alone, but because we're collaboratively working together, we now have huge whānau functions. We also have working with South End Primary School. We're monitoring some of their lunch periods to ensure that kids are safe in that space. We've put some of our people as teacher aides in there. The village has been identified by ECCT, one of the 5 champion organizations within the region. And so therefore we've had our first wānanga, and we're going to have our second one around with these other organizations around creating a unified vision around voice and leadership for Aotearoa. That puts us in a huge space of working with other organizations and making things happen on a national level. What we want to do is make sure that our voice is heard. And so we're really excited to be part and parcel of that out of the 15 organizations that were funded by them. I think one of the biggest things we're also involved in is the mentorship that we have. We have young people coming in who are being mentored by our people from the village, and they come through the Atua program, then they come to us and then out the other side. So we've also had to restructure the way that Atua looks. We've had to change a whole range of things. We had a good concept around rangatahi to rangatira, but now we understand that it takes a village to raise a rangatira. And what we're looking at now is that, the concept of what it had leading to rangatira was great, but the development fell a little bit short. And that's what we're focusing on. We really want to build that, make sure that these kids understand what it is to be a citizen of Karakia, that to filter into the whānau that they come from. So we've had some really good councillors come in and be part of the board, and trustees and a whole range of different people over the years. And it's just exciting to see us join together, collaborate and get things done. We've just had a noho in Castle Point. We had about 35 young people there. We don't used to have just one noho a year for Atua. It's now 3. And then on the 4th one, we have a big whānau dinner for Christmas. So we're really moving. We're making some good moves within community. And I thought we just wanted to come here and share that with you. And thank you for all of your support for the last few years over 2013 and also right up till now. The recommendations that Brenda is about to speak to, I hope fall in our favour. And thank you very much for the time.
Thank you. Questions, comments on the table?
Oh, just a comment. Thank you for everything you do, Wayne. Made a huge difference in this community, and I really appreciate it, and I'm sure everybody else does.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Councillor Lawrence, for taking to the whānau.
Councillor Haley.
So I had a couple of questions. From what you're saying then, Wayne, it sounds more like this is a formality and that the merge has already happened. Is that true?
Yes, so we're looking to, we've had those meetings, May the 31st for transition to happen.
And so how many people are on the Village Charitable Trust?
So we have 5 on there at the moment, and we're looking to adopt one from the R2R board.
That was my next question, if anyone was coming across. And the other question is, at the moment, I'm just interested in, I don't really understand how R2R works exactly, but what is council's role with R2R and how we have oversight and, how do we know exactly what's happening and how can we help support you in the work you're doing?
Yeah, sure. It's a Glenda question.
So R2R have had a long-standing agreement with Carterton District Council since its inception, but currently they're on a 5-year multi-year partnership agreement where we give them funding each year for the 5 years. Within that, the other requirements are that we support them with free use of the hub every Wednesday, and their responsibilities back to us is that they supply reports quarterly, and we fund them quarterly, and then they do the final year accountability as well. So we've had quite over the years, there's been a varied amount of support with R2R. So right back at the beginning, I think council were very involved in the original setup and supporting, and then they kind of gone out on their own, and we've just now found quite a nice neutral space.
And so will the reporting and stuff that was happening, will that continue with the village in the same sort of way?
So that's what we're hoping.
Yeah.
So based on the discussion in the paper, what we're hoping to do is transfer the MOU, the existing MOU, over to the village, which would be under the same clause, same criteria, which is due to expire in 2026. So
was that available on the website? I had a hunt for the MOU and I couldn't see it. Is it publicly available?
No, it is registered as our grants in our grants list for allocations, but the specific MOU is not on their website.
Okay, I had a hunt because it would have been helpful to have it in the report, was all, just so we could see what was actually. I wasn't sure if the MOU included the guaranteed funding or if it was just a arrangement with the hub and that kind of thing.
Yeah, fair point.
So they're just adding to that supplementary, and I know that whilst we have the representative of the Village Trust here, we have no one here formally, and I've read the letter, but I don't know who the trustees are. Do we have the R2R trustee speaking at the table to this proposition? Thank you. That would have been helpful. What does R2R Trust say?
Oh, look, it feels like a natural progression in terms of two organisations who are both supporting youth. They've also got the attention independently of big funders, and that's part of the beauty of merging, because now we can service younger children all the way through to the rangatahi, all the way up to age 26. So we've got a bigger catchment, and so with the funders now looking, and they're also supporting the professional development of the organisation. That's the management and our staff, and also in our trustee space as well. So it's kind of cool. We're getting all of this attention so that we can actually grow better and be bigger and kind of more capable to service our young people. So we're very excited.
Councillor.
Thank you for that. I have another question. I think this is more for Glenda. In the middle. Is there, I'm just thinking we've got R2R in the village, and we've also got the youth council. I'm just wondering how they all fit together, and are they in competition with one another at the moment, or is there some sort of collaboration? I would hate that we're sort of double dipping the same sort of.
No, definitely not
function and fund.
So the Youth Council has been established more at the governance level here, but in saying that, Megan and the team have been working really closely with both R2R and the village. So, and again, history of that is when it used to be the Wairarapa Youth Council, one of the other criteria in the MOU is that they do a joint event every year, which was the colour run that was just held a few weeks ago. So that was a joint initiative with both groups. So I think it's more about reaching more young people rather than competing against. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Quickly on the collaboration, the Youth Council here, we have 2 members that come from the village. in the Southern Wairarapa District Council, we also had 2 representatives there, and the equivalent of Megan also comes from the village in that space. So we've been building our voice and getting it around in leadership and so forth.
Yeah, that's interesting. One other last question, and then I'll pass the talking stick to someone else. The village also has adults, is that right? It's not just the up to 26. There are adults in the facility as well.
Yep. So it has we do our 12 respite, 12 years old for respite care on, just like one night a week.
Yeah.
But the oldest one that's living in the village now is 19.
Oh, okay. But there is no upper limit.
It can be from 12 to 24,
12 to
depending on the screening process.
Okay.
And then how it works, the dynamics of our people.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Wayne.
Any other questions?
Just a comment, more than anything. Thank you, Mayor Ron. After attending the colour run the other day and getting plastered and paint, it was all part of the fun. I really enjoyed it, and the thing I got out of it most was the age group of children there, from toddlers to the older 20-year-olds, and really enjoying the day and all being so cooperative, and every one of those kids or young adults had smiles on their faces. A really well run day, and hats off to all the organisers that ran a really good day. And I just can't speak highly enough of just to see that amount, well, they said 200, but I was going to say 100 plus involved. It was really fantastic. Really well done. So yeah, supported all the way.
Any questions from the paper around? Yes, Councillor Newman, please.
Just a question. It says for the village, all accountability reports have been received in a timely manner. Is it the same being happening for Atua? Have they been hitting their MOU requirements?
Yes. Yep. So yeah, Atua are slightly different because we do pull them in quarterly, so they are a little bit more frequent in coming in. Yep.
Say that again, please.
So we get quarterly reports back from Atua, and then we allocate out per quarter rather than just the annual fee like we do with grants. Yep.
Are there any other questions? Yeah, I guess the thoughts I was having, and maybe it's a conversation another time, but I look at the Youth Council and I look at R2R and I look at the website and I look at the goals in the chair of both of them. They're very similar. It's almost like a cut and a paste across there, but they're very similar, and did leave me pondering as to why we didn't do both. What, as a part of the youth strategy, why it wasn't all pulled together as one, but I guess I'll understand a bit more down the line. But so essentially it's saying that the trust is holding, and the village is picking up the role responsibility, and proposition is that the funding be transferred. Okay. Another question? Oh, Councillor.
One other question, just to make me understand it better. I'm on the grants committee, and I'm just trying to understand. So at the moment, we were having this discussion around the frequency of renewals, and that we only have 1 year processes of giving out funds at this moment. So this is going to ensure that you guys don't have to do that for the next 2 years, is that right? And then that would kick into the standard 1 year.
Yep. So the changes that were made with the grants committee to going into annual funds, kicked in that year. However, we already had existing MOUs in place.
Yeah.
So we're rolling with the existing MOUs until they expire, and then it'll be going into annual ones. So every year when they're coming up for expiration, they're getting in a letter from us stating that they will now be having to apply annually and that there is no multi-year funding.
Yeah.
So this would be the same for the village, because their one is now coming up for finishing at the end of this year.
Mm-hmm.
So they would have received that letter, and then that would be the same for Atua in 2 years' time when their expiry comes up.
So even though they're merging, the village's one will still kick into an annual.
One has this financial year is their last year.
Yeah.
What we're saying is R2R one for the next 2 financial years going
Yeah,
into
the R2R.
2026. Yeah.
Clarify. So Village One has reached the grandmother end of stage, so it'll need to move into an annual one. R2R hasn't quite reached that stage yet. So what we're asking for is an assignment of that R2R contract over to the village. When it reaches its expiry, which is 2026, it will then also roll into an annual.
Cool. And I was just checking it wasn't sort of incorporating with the village's MOU as well. So it's still being held separate in that sense. That makes sense. Thank you.
That's great.
Glenn, do we still have other MOUs
Yes.
outside of the grants committee?
Which
Funding ones?
Yes. Is Hiranui or Rangi funding within the grants committee, or is that outside?
It's outside.
Outside of it.
So we do have MOUs outside of grants funding.
yes, and we've got like the economic development ones with some of the bigger funders. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Some question. Why do you want to hand over what you've created to the village and not someone else?
Why?
And who else is out there that you canvassed and spoke to?
Look, I think it was looking at the alliances that had been formed within Carterton. It was looking at what was working really well, the strengths that we had that could be included somewhere else, and also the strengths that we could receive by partnering specifically with the village. So it was a choice based around the strong leadership, a strong governance team, the strength of their whānau as a whole, you know, because they have youth leadership, they have whānau leadership, and it was such a beautiful model that we really wanted to be a part of that. But equally, we retain our kaupapa by keeping the program itself. So it felt like a really good practical step.
Thanks, Worship. It was also the fact that the kaitiaki of the village were kaitiaki of R2R, and it was becoming their leaders looking after the village youth were becoming our leaders of R2R, and it just made more and more sense as we moved on separately that we were becoming closer and closer together. And I just think it was a natural progression, really, that we were going to at some point merge.
Did your trust deed have anything to do with it?
Sorry?
Did your trust deed have anything to do with it? What does your trust deed say? When you dissolve, there are specific requirements under the dissolution instructions.
Yeah, absolutely. And that any funds that were retained would go to, you know, a similar organisation.
Yeah, could have been. Okay, that's me. Nothing else? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Right, Council, we have a number of recommendations. Our first recommendation that we receive the report. Councillor Newman, seconded by Councillor Dalla. All in favour? Aye. Aye. From the table.
Oh, right.
Sorry. Thank you. What's the motion? And please add a note that Councillor Cretney abstained from the vote. That the council notes the letter received from R2R with the request for changes to funding, and notes both and I'll take both as one, notes the village and R2R programs plan to apply for continued support through the CDC community grants annually. Can we take those as one? Someone to move, please. Councillor Robin Cherry-Campbell, Councillor Steve Gallen. Thank you. All in favour?
Okay.
Against? Motion is carried, noting Councillor Cretney abstained. 4, agrees to transfer the remaining 2 years of the funding agreement from R2R Trust to Carterton Village Trust. There is a second, agrees to end the MOU with R2R, which will take effect from 31st of May. Would there be any discussion at this point, or I can take a mover and a seconder and then discuss? Move Councillor Cherry-Campbell, seconded Councillor Lawrence. Open for discussion.
Did you just move 4 and 5?
No, 4.
No, just 4, just 4.
Sorry, I got confused.
So we do have a mover on 4 and we do have a second on 4. Are there any comment, any discussion, any comments? Straight to the vote. All in favour? Aye. Against? Noting councillor Gregory's abstention, motion is passed. No need for 5. Right, end of paper. Thank you very much. Thank you, team. Thanks. 7.3. Georgina Beyer Memorial Sculpture. Okay. There's a typo on page 39.
Kia ora koutou again. So this paper is about the Georgina Beyer Memorial Sculpture. So just a bit of background. The sculptor came to People and Places Committee or Advisory Group in April last year and presented his idea around a sculpture. So People and Places Advisory Group at that time liked the idea to look at further developing that, hence where we've moved forward with a feasibility study. So, I forgot, sorry. So through the feasibility study, Paul has come back and he's presented a mock-up of what the sculpture would like to encompass. So what he's proposing there is a life-size sculpture, and then you'll see he's spent a lot of time through the feasibility area really defining and getting the facial features right of the sculpture, which is pictured on page 40.
Relatively, maquettes, wife being an artist, maquettes normally don't include facial features, just an outline of.
So what he's proposing in the korowai is that the feathers at the top of it will be resin coming through. So that resin would be a coloured resin, which would have white and red flecks coming through it. And there'd be areas of the korowai which is also coloured as well, just to, I guess, more align with Georgina's personality.
Can't eat it.
So we've also met with the advisors of Georgina's estate who have said that they like the idea, they're supportive of the idea, and that they would also be keen to support with engaging with iwi around the further development of this. One of the notes in the report is around the funding. So we are intending to get this externally funded. We have a funding system that's new to council, very new to council, called Funding HQ. The system is it's a platform to help us with our internal funding capabilities, and for us to look at how we can secure funds for our own projects. But additionally to that, it'll also help us understand the funding environment so that we can help support community in getting funding for community-led projects like this in Carrington Park and other projects that are happening in our community.
Any questions, any discussion?
Oh,
Deputy Mayor.
couple of questions, Linda, thank you.
That's right.
On page 40, third paragraph down, project likely to take 12 to 18 months to complete. This will allow time for fundraising and creation of the memorial sculpture. So presumably fundraising and the creation of the sculpture are running in parallel. What if the funding stalls or doesn't reach its target and the sculpture is created? What then?
I think it's more around the funding probably is the first priority. But like you'll see here that he has started mocking up ideas. So I think he'll continue to hone in and mock up what he's hoping for. And then his final design will just be, sorry, I'm just looking at Bex because she's been more in depth with the sculptor. Yeah.
Bex, please.
Sorry.
Chairman's prerogative. I suppose the question is, if the funding doesn't reach target and the sculpture is created, who owns it? Who picks up the bill at the end of it and the shortfall?
Yeah, so the proposal is that we will work with Funding HQ to secure the funding. At that point, we would formally commission to continue the work. So there'd be a staged process.
Truck and trailer, not.
100%. Yeah, it needs to be because it's such a significant project and it's a significant amount of money. And Paul wouldn't carry on work without a formal commission from either the executors or the sculptor or ourselves as fund holders. So yeah, it would be a staged approach. That's why we haven't really got a timeline set, because it would be very funding dependent.
I guess the follow on to that question is, so if council approves the recommendation, who owns the piece? Does it become ours from that date? In other words, it's our project that we are then promoting and owning and seeing to the fruition, or is it our support enables others to make it happen and we have no responsibility or ownership until such time? I'm just curious about the obligation or liability, I should say.
Yeah.
Perhaps I could answer that. So it's come through People and Places, and council endorsed it. We would step into the shoes of leading the project. So it would be a council led project, as Bex pointed out, and as we've made commitments to council previously. We wouldn't start a project until we know that we can complete it, and the same would be with this particular project. We wouldn't start without knowing we could complete it. However, we would lead the project through the process, and it would be council's asset at the end of it. So council would step into the shoes of being the project manager.
I've got a couple more. Can I just keep going? Thank you. Sorry. Just picking up on Youth Council and Josie's comments around maintenance, and I guess there's a maintenance component built into any piece of public art that we would have. Is there any leeway for, extraordinary maintenance that might come from any type of art?
We so as part of the next steps, we would be developing further into the project plan, which would then give us a better idea of the maintenance. But looking at the existing sculptures and statues that we've got in town, there's not a lot of investment going into them most of the time, and it's very rarely, maybe once a year, there's a graffiti removal that's going into there, or changing a light bulb with the lights that are around it. So there's not a lot. I don't envision a lot of maintenance budget needing to be required, and I think that that could be achieved within our existing past budgets.
Supplementary on that. How many times is the Charles Rook and Carter statue been?
In the time that I've been here, twice.
Twice, yeah.
So over 4 years, yeah.
Just last one. Just reading through the public art policy, which I guess, if we separate the personalities involved of the sculpture and stick with the policy and the process, there's a couple here, page 46. It's got consultation with communities. Where possible, decisions regarding public artwork should involve consultation with the relevant local community. How is that this what we're doing now, or has there been, other than People and Places, has there been consultation, albeit limited, with the relevant local community, or since it's come out in the order paper, there's been consultation? But as you know what I mean, does what we're doing now fit with the process that we've got in writing?
Can I just get a clarification before you answer the question, because this keeps popping up. Now, if I go to the front of the very first paragraph, it talks of the sculpture being a public art piece. Looking at the policy, it is clearly a category 3. It's not an art piece, it's a sculpture, it's a monument. So could we just make that adjustment? Because if you follow the policy the Deputy Mayor's pointing to, It's not an art piece, it's a monument.
It's a memorial.
And the processes for a category 3 are different for the other processes in part. And so just that might be one of the things adding to the confusion and maybe the questions. I don't know, but it's just that's a point of clarification. That's all I'm seeking, Chair.
Yep.
But yes, to answer the question, the Deputy Mayor's question, please.
So at this stage, no. So it has been a community-driven piece. So it's almost done the opposite. So the community has come into council with this idea. It's then gone to the people and places, and then through that process has come up. So there hasn't been any formal consultation to date. We did note that there would be consultation through the process, but that was more around location rather than do community want the statue or not.
Okay. Jeff?
Deputy Mayor Williams, that may be another step that council wishes to consider at this time rather than making a decision now. There may be further information that you wish to seek from the public before you wish to make a formal decision on progressing this memorial.
Just, sorry, absolutely last one. I'm following on. Number 3.
Come on, where's the talking stick?
Yeah, no, well, I got another way down. Again, it was around, there was, and I can't find it just at the moment, but along the lines of if the subject of a sculpture or a piece of public art is already acknowledged elsewhere, then that they don't meet the criteria. I'm just thinking in this case of the street naming. Does that how does that fit in the policy wording that we've got? It's in there somewhere, I know.
2.1.
Sorry?
2.1.
Sorry.
No new memorial plaque will be considered that commemorates a person, event, or occasion already memorialised unless there are exceptional circumstances.
Which brings to the root of my point of order, which is not a category 3, 2.1. Yeah.
Under guidelines, 2.1.
It's guided. So, but category 3 is a slightly different process.
I'm really just looking for clarification. I'm not making a judgment either way.
Yeah, but you're right. And you're alluding to.
Well, we've accepted the nomination from the developers for a street name after Georgina Beyer, and I'm just wondering if that then contradicts this policy. If there's an opportunity for a second or a further honouring of a person, it's a question.
Bearing in mind the street name request is a property developer's choice.
However, it's still now our street.
Well, we are still in our street. Yeah. Okay.
You could probably say the same thing about the Charles Brooke and Carter statue and that it's
exactly.
memorialised in the name of the town.
Yes, it was memorialised in the name of the town. We could change that.
Yeah, and I'm not sure we had a policy back then, but it's just a question. I'm just trying to.
May have been set with Charles Brooke and Carter.
Karatahi sounds good.
Have you finished, Dale?
That was the last question. Yeah.
Can I ask? It's kind of a question, kind of clarification, and it's really for ratepayers and around comments that I've had from people in arena about council's paying for a statue, we don't want to pay for it out of our rates, etc., etc. I have explained to them that council isn't paying for it and that it is being funding is coming from external. Can you clarify exactly what it means by CDC being a fund holder for those that are watching this meeting so they can actually really understand the fact that it's not coming out of their rates and what a fund holder means?
Okay, I could do that. What council would contribute towards this project would be staff time. The funding platform that we have, Funding HQ, costs around $3,000 per annum, but we use that for all of our funding. So a new funding initiative like this would be marginal cost in terms of setting up the page and running the funding. The majority of cost will be staff time working on the project. As a fund holder, we would use our bank account to accept and receive funds from donations, hold that until such time as the commission was complete, and then pay that out, managing those funds on behalf of the community. We wouldn't contribute council funds or ratepayer funds into that. We would, all we would be contributing would be towards staff time.
Thank you.
Can I just add to that under the four wellbeings, which is a requirement of local government, there is a section there around council having responsibility for public art, culture and heritage. So this is a part of our core business as local government.
It's just not art. It's just the memorial. It's a monument and memorial. Yeah. Any others? Councillor Ayling.
You just mentioned this funding HQ and that it's new. Is this project what has started off the council's engagement with funding HQ? Is that $3,000 now a cost solely because of this, or initially because of this, or has it been used in the past?
No, this what we were getting funding HQ for was looking at internal funding support. So looking at how we can better work.
How we seek grants.
Yeah, how we seek grants to support things that we want to do in Kingston, which then doesn't have an impact on ratepayers. It's just there also to support us in helping community with other funds. So it's not specifically, it was obtained before this, but it would help this. It would help Carterton Swim Club. It would help Carrington Park upgrade with us having that.
Yeah. And just wondering what the initial rationale was behind Carterton District Council being the fund holder instead of Georgina Beyer's estate. Have they said they don't want to do it, or
something that came to Carterton District Council, not to Georgina Beyer's estate? So this came from a request from somebody in our community to our council. So I don't think we've even considered going to Georgina Beyer's estate and saying, this is something for you to do. So
should we?
I don't feel that, I don't know. That's not my call. I don't think that's my decision. I think that needs to probably go back to this table or to people and places.
Thanks, Lucia. I struggle with just some of the comments in the paper. Just it is stating that it's a community-led idea, but it's going to be council who are going to be taking it, applying for the funding, using staff time, because the community does think that this is going to be funded externally, but as just pointed out, there will be costs to council with staff time. So there are costs to council. But also just the within the paper, the People and Places Advisory Group is mentioned a number of times, but I don't believe that those groups within that advisory group have actually gone back to their organisations with something to show what's actually proposed. So I just thought as a test, I would raise this at the Historical Society annual general meeting on Sunday, just to get a feel for how the paid members of the society felt about a statue. And there was a lot of feedback saying that, yes, she is the world's first transgender mayor in Carterton. And yes, she is an MP for the Wairarapa. But a lot of the talk was that should this be a central government funded project? And should it be led by Carterton District Council? So I was very surprised but interested in their feedback. And so that's just one organisation, and I feel the advisory group is many, and I don't feel that we've had the opportunity to go back to those organisations and actually ask. And it has been mentioned, should we pause? I think Jeff mentioned before, and that's what I was going to raise, is that I feel we should pause and go back to at least allow the people in place of advisory groups to go back to their organisations and just ask if they actually approve of this concept. I'm not sure how others feel around the table.
Councillor Chair,
Chair of
Brian, you can.
People and Places, and the discussions that we have in the People and Places Advisory Group meeting, I would actually think it was the responsibility of people that are representing community groups to go back to their groups to discuss what has been discussed at those advisory group meetings as the representative from each group. So I have to say I'm a little disappointed if people around the table representing those groups haven't gone back, because this is just one instance of one of the things we discuss. So if they're just keeping it to themselves and not sharing it to their community groups, that's a huge concern for me. And does that happen in the other advisory groups? I mean, it's their responsibility. They're representing community organisations.
And as we found out on the rates review, it does happen where they don't take information back. Sometimes, yeah. And Councillor Geller, please.
Thank you, Ron. I've done a bit of consultation with a few people over the last 2 or 3 weeks over this, and I've penned these notes probably 2 or 3 days ago, so some of these questions have already been answered already, but I'll just read them out of what I've written down. So I'll start off. This is a nice to have project. As stated in the report, CDC will not be funding this project. It will be externally funded and there'll be no impact on rates. Therefore, there will be ongoing maintenance costs, as has already been pointed out. The project will require a lot amount of funding at the moment. I do not think that New Zealanders on the whole have the discretionary money to contribute to this type of project. Since 1887, Carlton have had 26 mayors. 6 of these mayors have served longer terms than Georgina. None of them have any sort of a memorial constructed to recognise their contributions to our district apart from street names. Ron Waitland served as mayor for 25 years and several after him before him doing long stints. Names like Chisholm, Keys, Geller and McPhee.
Conflict of interest. Record.
Are we setting a precedent for all past and present mayors to be recognised with the construction of a memorial to remember them? I recognise what Georgina has achieved in her lifetime, but my opinion and thoughts believe that her achievements were more centred on the rights of the transgender community for all of New Zealand and the world. I feel Georgina did do a good job as mayor well in Carterton, as expected of any mayor elected to that office. The present place to remember and recognise any Carterton person of night, I feel, is at Clearville. These memorials are funded by family and estates. That's all I've got to all my notes.
Councillor Gallen, then I'm going to come to Councillor Moore.
Yeah, thank you. I just made a few notes that, as saying as Brian said, I think there's a lot of overlapping here. Just a few things I've noted down, like difference between 300,000 and 500,000 is quite a lot. If someone said they were going to pay you so much and then actually to the other end, it's a hell of a lot different. Also written down the staff involvement with time and all that, funding HQ, but I'm actually amazed how many people have hunted me down in the last week or so about things like this. A lot of them have also brought up the very bad timing with the pool project pushing forward, and they're saying, terrible timing. It's nice to have eye on the ball and focus on fundraising for one thing, but to have two happen at the same time is probably such a good idea. Yeah, just so many questions and suggestions. I just, I've said that many people asking me a lot of things probably I don't know enough about, but also been given a lot of suggestions about where the money should be coming from. But we'll just leave it at that.
Councillor Newman.
First thought, it says the community-led project has been suggested by Paul Quested. Sorry, pronunciation. So it's actually the sculptor himself who's driving this project, right? Was there community, or did Paul come to people and places and he bought the idea himself?
I think management brought Paul in, didn't you? Did you?
Paul contacted council with his idea, and we invited him to come to people and places.
I think Paul was prompted by a flurry at Georgina's passing, and around the time of her funeral, there was a flurry of stuff on Facebook and people suggesting, and I actually commented on it myself, statue, should be erected. And from that, the general conversation grew. Paul then, I think. Is that so?
Yeah, so I didn't see any of that Facebook stuff previous to that, but the first I've seen with Paul contacting CDC via the, info email, and said that he was quite interested in doing that, and we thought the most appropriate place for him to go is People and Places Advisory Group in the first instance. So that's where it's gone through there.
Okay. And so then have we approached other sculptors from there, or we just go with him? Like, have there been other options looked at?
No.
No. Sorry, I'm just going to scroll down. With, again, touching on what everyone's touched on, Georgina did amazing things, and I'm not doubting that or the work she did, but reading 2.4 in the guidelines, the subject for memorials will be limited to the following: an individual or association that's contributed significantly to the district, an individual or association strongly linked to the district and its history, individuals who lived in or have a special association to the district. And further on Brian's point, what did Georgina do that makes her more worthy potentially of being memorialised than these other mayors in terms of what her impact on Carterton? Mm-hmm. Just a question that was coming up for me. The cost of the maintenance and installation was another thought I had. So it's probably going to garner a bit of attention, so there probably is a higher risk of things being done to it. And being married to an electrician, and ground lights are always expensive to maintain. Consultation with community, I think, is a massive one. I think we have to do that personally, including the preferred site. Because if there can't be an agreement on the site, and I think that there are specific thoughts potentially of where it should be, which might not be in line with where the public would see it, I just think that could be a really big stumbling block that we should look at before we go down getting the money, possibly. And yeah, that's all my thoughts. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Lawrence.
I'm all over the place on this, and I think everybody is.
Yeah.
Georgina predates me. I mean, I wasn't living here when she was the mayor. I never met her once. I think at one of the new citizen ceremonies. I think she came to one. So her impact on Carterton, as I say, is predates me. But I'm aware of her impact nationally. Note that of all the weighty and important things on our agenda for today, the only one that made the New Zealand Herald was the potential statue of Georgina. So I think we do have to look at this as a project of national importance, but the most appropriate place for a statue of national importance of someone who was from Carterton is probably in Carterton. So we kind of finish up sort of as trustees of the idea, really. It doesn't bother me, but I'm aware that there is I don't think there's a group of people in this community who have put their hands up and said, I want to be on a committee that gets this done. But I think I remember what Ron said there was a lot of discussion and suggestions from within the community at the time of her passing that this would be something that was appropriate. So I think it came out of the community. But whether that movement is still there, I don't know. So I think we have to find that out.
That's a good place to go. You want another bite? You said that was your last question.
I had questions. This is comments.
I mean, Chair, no, still, are there any more questions? I will go to comments.
Only since this came out in the agenda and it hit the public and social media, I've been incredibly disappointed at how the conversation deteriorated from a discussion around a memorial or a public monument into Georgina's character, sexuality, politics, all of that. And, you know, as a human being, I've been disgusted at some of the comments that council has received and people have said. And I'm just really disappointed at how some people have expressed their views by tearing apart a deceased person and their character when they can't defend themselves. So that's at one level. For me, because like everybody here, I've had conversations and talked to various groups in the last few days, and it's absolutely clear, separating the principle and the person. The two things that have come forward really strongly is it's controversial and it's a distraction. And most people are grappling with LTP, with life, with a whole lot of things, job security, all of that. And I guess for me, I keep falling on, I don't have a strong opinion, yes or no, but I believe not now. That we can deal with when other things are put to bed or we've moved on from where we are in our cycles. I believe we can have a responsible, respectful conversation around this particular topic and do fair justice to the person involved, and then have a discussion around what, how, when, where and who, rather than have to deal with that controversialness or whatever the word is and the distraction when we're trying to get people alongside for our LTP and representation review and all the other things that we are legally obliged to do. That's where I sit. Thank you. Your Worship.
Okay, so is it for me to put my 10 cents in? I've got to say that I too have seen some emails, and I remember that I always remind myself that communities have their top 1% and they have their bottom 1%. And they will always exist. I've always been proud of Carterton, and I will always remain proud of Carterton. In fact, I had a rather strong conversation with a gentleman the other day who described us as being small town minded. And as you'd imagine, I don't take comments like that very well when you're talking about our town, our district. And so the conversation was firm. And I don't resolve from one word I said. But it's disappointing at the same time, some of the commentary. But hey, knowing Georgina and as a parliamentary colleague and as a friend, she'd be laughing right now because she's always been controversial. And anything you do, naming a street, putting a little brass plaque down or putting a memorial up is going to be controversial because that is the nature of Georgina's life. But if one reflects, for me personally, and I'll say this, my personal view, if I reflect on where she started as a child, what life was like, get the book, have a read, and where she ended up. I talked to a lot of foster kids and I talked to a lot of foster parents, and when I talk role models, and me, a soldier, a very conservative person, have shifted my thinking from the days when I was an 18-year-old soldier to where I'm now 70 hugely. And a lot of it's around respecting a person, what they achieve in life, what they've done with their life, not dwelling on their sexuality or other stuff that seems to occupy other people's minds or concern them or their religious beliefs or whatever. So Georgie's always been, she's lived her life as a controversial person. She was a controversial mayor, a controversial parliamentarian, but one thing she certainly does put Carterton on the map. And I don't think I've heard anything today that denies that and rejects that. The question and the proposition is the statute. And I think it's very clear there is a process, there is a policy here. I think sticking to the policy is a very, very good guideline to how you process. I point out that, and so I'll stand corrected by Steve, Councillor Cretney, sorry, my apologies. Councillor Cretney, being a Lion member at any stage, there is nothing to stop any group of people raising a proposition, putting a fund, a trust together, raising money, build a statue, and then tabling a letter to council saying, we have a statue to this person under your policy. We seek your permission to have it, your agreement to have it placed or erected at this location. The council then goes through its process and either accepts it, as did with Charles Rooking Carter. I mean, I will tell you, there are a lot of Māori folk there who bite their tongue every day they drive past that statue. And that's why it gets graffitied. But no one stopped it. And it's still there every day. And it's a source of mamae for certain people. Same as Governor Gray, same as Joseph Masters and a whole bunch of other people. But people move on and get it. The one thing you can't deny is the number of children who sit on Charles Rooking Carter's knee every weekend. So, you know, controversial ideas. If we can't recognise someone who's performed on the international stage, then the question is, who are we ever going to recognise? I still wonder why we haven't recognised Bob Charles, even John Banks, who's going to be buried back in Clearville when he dies. So those are things that are in my mind. But I think we also keep alert to the fact that if the council chooses not to be the administrator, the fund holder, the project manager, for all of those reasons that constituents have put to you individually, that does not necessarily mean to say that someone else won't pick that up and that it will not be back at your table. I think the one thing I'd take out, and in terms of the fundraising, I think achieving that funding will be a breeze and it will be achieved far quicker than anyone in management realise. I don't even know if you need Fund HQ, to be honest, on this one. Fund HQ could help us with the splash pad and a bunch of other things. But this one, by the time they prick the consciences of every Labour MP, both past and present, both here in Australia and Britain, and hit Parliament, hit the Heritage, Heritage Fund, Arts, Culture and Heritage, Ministry of Arts, Culture and Heritage, by the time they hit those people who are hitting that target will be a doddle, because Georgina is so highly regarded. So the question really comes down to how should it be handled? And I think the CE has wisely given us a bit of a steer. I think I've heard from each councillor the concern that the community needs to be consulted a bit more broadly. That's what I'm hearing. So we have recommendations. And I'm trying to find the page. It's got the recommendation.
43.
And there it is, right there on page 43. So, and we can take recommendations as written or any modification of that as you council decide. But where shall we start? So let's start from the top while we gather our thoughts. And could I have someone move that we receive the report, please? Councillor Newman, thank you. Second by Councillor Gallant, thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. Notes the feasibility work undertaken to date with the support of the People and Places Advisory Group, and thanks to them. Moved by Councillor Robin Cherry Campbell, who is the chair of People and Places. Thank you, Rob, Councillor. And seconded by Councillor Lawrence. Thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. Agrees to support the development of Georgina Beyer Memorial Sculpture, subject, there it is, Memorial Sculpture, subject to obtaining external funding. let's discuss that. Is there anyone who wishes to move that, or is there an alternative motion that might be worded?
Could that be where, if the discussion around the table has been about more community engagement, subject to community engagement? To my fellow councillors.
Yeah, without agreeing to support or not support, it's more that further information
Preliminary.
be required, or
You'd agree to seek public feedback on a development of a Georgina Beyer memorial sculpture?
I think if you're just considering not moving the both 3 and 4, the notes that once funding has been secured, council will need to engage with the community and decide on a suitable location. I guess, Jeff, is that where the wording could be? Council, a motion. I'm looking for a motion from you. If there's.
I think the words, the external funding needs to be very clearly defined in the recommendation as well.
But the funding and the engagement with the community and deciding on a suitable location, we're not there yet.
No, that's why I'm talking about point number 3. I wasn't talking about 4. It was more.
Well, forgive me, Richard, if I'm hearing the room right, you'd like to replace recommendations 3 and 4 with a recommendation that we seek public input around the development of a Georgina Beyer memorial sculpture and its location, which would be externally funded.
Yes, perfect.
And I think consultation should be after our long-term plan and after our other, because we've got a lot on at the moment. I think you'll get more feedback if it's just a little bit, a couple months away rather than right now.
As Dale said, not now. I think it's just bad timing.
Yeah.
Perhaps we use the word engagement rather than consultation.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's craft the wording for that so we are clear, because we are.
You all right with that?
Yeah, do you want to read it?
Yeah, I had seek public feedback was the first thing, but
Seek public feedback on the development of a Georgina Beyer memorial sculpture and location, subject to external funding, after the completion of the long-term plan.
Perfect. I'm happy to move that.
We have a mover. Do we have a seconder?
Sorry, would you rather say at an appropriate time in future rather than just after LTP? Does that bind you to? Oh, look, I mean, I don't know. Question. I guess there's never a right time.
Well, after the LTP could be any time before the next one.
Yeah, good call.
Seconded by councillor Ayling. Is there any discussion?
Not really discussion, but I do think in terms of timing, I think because it's topical, I think it doesn't need to be in the resolution, but I think it should be this year rather than some point in the future. So I think that's an understanding I think we need to have amongst ourselves, and we're going to try and get this sorted out this year.
Could that be another resolution?
Or do you just want to change the resolution to before the end of the calendar year?
Are you, as a mover, are you happy with that amendment?
Absolutely. You happy with that, seconder?
Yes.
We have agreement by the mover and seconder to amend that.
Staff happy with the your work program?
May I note, Your Worship, I know councillor Creekney's comments, but public engagement will incur cost. So we just need to be conscious of that.
Yeah.
And are we doing engagement and are we doing input?
We said feedback.
Feedback.
Feedback versus consultation is
feedback.
Feedback. What I moved.
The difference.
And if there are any people that have been hiding behind their keyboards, maybe they would like to come and speak at a public forum and actually present their views in person, would be really, really nice.
Okay, so we have a motion, and that might well be the closing statement at the end, and I might leave that to Councillor Terry Campbell to make. So we have a motion as read and as amended. All in favour? Aye. Against? Any abstentions?
I will abstain.
Abstention, Councillor Della. Thank you. Motion's passed.
Thank you.
And team.
Oh, sorry, no, 3 and 4, 3 and 4.
Got to scratch those and replace them, right?
Yeah, they are replaced.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thanks.
Thank you. What's the time? What time do we pause?
3 o'clock.
At 3, 15 minutes. Yeah. Okay. 7.4 Wairarapa Economic Development Strategy Q3 report. I'm happy to put the thing.
As you may recall, Wairarapa Economic Development Strategy, often referred to as WEDS, has a governance group which includes the Mayor and myself, and quarterly they provide a report on 6 main themes of work streams, being business, people, water resilience, Māori, technology and infrastructure. That has, work streams have currently had a workshop to review those work streams, and some of them may be consolidated. The work program of WEDS appears to have expanded, and the intention was to try and focus on things that move the dial. So I'm expecting that the next quarter update will have a slimmed down version of the work program for the WEDS team. If I could note with permission of His Worship, the governance model that we have for WEDS involves the 3 mayors, the 3 council chief executives, community interest groups and iwi. So quite heavily involved in governance, and the governance model we have for Destination Wairarapa, another economic development group that we support, involves us appointing Dr. Roger Wigglesworth and leaving him to it. So those 2 models seem to be quite different extremes, and council is supporting both of them in quite different ways. And as part of this LTP, both of their memorandums of understanding, as Councillor Cretney has pointed out, do expire at this LTP and are currently included in the LTP budget. So now is the right time for us to have conversations around both the WEDS organisation and Destination Wairarapa, should council wish to do that. Unfortunately, South Wairarapa and Masterton's MOUs don't expire at LTP time, which I am a little surprised about. So we will probably, if we continue on, the council decides, we will extend our MOUs by 1 year to align with the other 2 councils, and then hopefully have them align with the LTP in 2026. Happy to take questions.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. I mean, it's the one thing that I mentioned this during DW's presentation. One thing Carterton District Council has, regardless of who's mayor and who's been there, is when councils historically in Carterton have made commitments to joint arrangements across, we have never dishonoured those or arbitrarily pulled a pin. What we're seeing in other parts of the Wairarapa has been a change from something. I never saw that from Gary Daniels or Lynn Patterson or Bob Francis in the past. But and being strong advocates for unity and consistency across the district, it would be a little bit out of step if we were to follow their pathway. But that said, if they make changes, we're going to be forced to have a rethink about what we are doing, but that won't be our decision. My view is that it shouldn't be our decision. We honour our commitments, and if other people change the board, we have to react. We have to reconsider what we do. DW is just one of those things, but there are more changes under the review, and part of it's also been sparked by Masterton signalling that they're going to reduce their contribution, which means that right across the whole WID strategy, someone's got to take a knife and make some cut. And it also means there's going to be less money coming into the Wairarapa because we get about 3 times the money back in that we put in, which I'm proud to say Carterton can see, but others can't. So we can only deal with what we know right now. And but just know that the changes to the strategy, as Jeff has said, are currently under review. I had a workshop with the acting mayor of South Wairarapa, and it was interesting how aligned we were in thinking. One of my concerns is that in the Wellington frame of mind, they keep talking about transport, and I keep reminding them it's about transport and roads, because roads is the biggest concern to rural councils, not necessarily transport. But we'll see how it shakes down, because I'm only one voice in the max, but there we go. So we have recommendations. I'll take the report as read. We have a recommendation. We received the report. Is there any questions of Jess first? Sorry. Yes.
Remind me, how much do we put into WIDS?
$60,000 a year. Fair enough.
So you also requiring steerage as to rolling it over for one more year at this point?
I think that will come up as part of the LTP hearings and deliberations.
That's just a heads up. That's going to be there. Yeah, 60K. Masterton's what? 200?
Masterton's
100.
Masterton 170, I think, and
South
Wairarapa are about 90.
Yeah. And out of that total contribution, we get 640 in the fund.
Yeah.
But that's the funding that Wellington NZ puts in for the strategies, and you work, and everybody else is the benefactor of that. So comments, views, moving on. Someone move or receive the report. Councillor Cretney, seconded by Councillor Della. All in favour? Aye. Against? Any abstentions? Motion's carried. Thank you. We got time to do 7.5? Financial report.
We could go through the financials.
Financial. This is the one's quarterly.
I would able to invite Cara to the table.
Cara, welcome to the table.
And so this is the financial report for the 9 months to 31 March. And I'll take it that everybody's read the report.
We take questions.
Yep. So we get this quarterly. Yep. So this is your once in 3 month opportunity to ask about detailed questions on the financials. Councillor Cretney's first hand up.
2-minute job, does it?
Thanks, Worship. Page 62, under financial position. Can you confirm for me that we have loan funded $4.5 million for the farm? I thought we were using 800,000 of council reserves.
We've used approximately $800,000 or $900,000 worth of reserves, and the balance has been loan funded.
Okay. Within that 4.5?
No, I think it was 3.7 that we loan funded, and the balance, or 3.6 we loan funded, and the balance came from reserves.
Okay, just the way it reads it.
Yes, sorry. Misleading there.
What is the exact number?
The purchase price was $4.5 million. We used $900,000, I believe it was, from reserves, and the balance was loan funded.
Yes.
I'm telling the finance person and the finance numbers. My apologies, Cara.
It's okay, my memory's not great.
Loan funded. Okay.
I just had a quick one, the operating revenue page. Miscellaneous income and commissions. What's that include?
So there was a roll up of, there were several income codes that we had. It includes included. There was just the miscellaneous income.
So the sale of,
Sorry.
so we sell the rubbish bins, we sell the water tanks. So we sell a bunch of things over the counter.
Yeah.
We had quite a run on water tanks for a while there. We ran out, at Wellington region ran out of 200 litre main water tanks actually over the period.
And the commissions?
Commissions is the event centre here. So where we're selling tickets on.
No other questions? Councillor Morris, please.
On the face of it, at 99% of forecast, it sounds outstanding. But I'm a bit bothered by grants and subsidies where $500,000 over because that's better off funding. And that's not going to be replaced, is it? Yes.
What page are you on?
Same page.
Operating revenue.
59.
59.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not all better off funding. Some of that is actual grants and subsidies that we've received as part of the transitional funding was in there. There was our normal grants and subsidies that we get from other places.
Like Mayor's Task Force for Jobs would be included under that.
Yes.
Correct.
So, I mean, how much of that 816 is going to be ongoing or replaceable? Or on the face, it looks like about $500,000 of it is.
If I
next year.
speak to that, so the transition funding from Three Waters Reform was we've received approximately $140,000 so far. 180,000 of Three Waters transition funding, and we've received approximately 170,000 of the better off funding.
Oh.
The balance of it, so Mayor's Task Force for Jobs would have been about 250,000 of this funding, and that will roll over into next year as well. So there's only two that I know of so far, which would be the better off funding and the transition funding that will stop. Probably 300,000.
Yeah, because that additional funding is roughly balancing the shortfall in the Waka Kotahi subsidy. Are we likely to get that 800,000 that we're short there made up in this last quarter?
Great question. I thought you might ask. Thank you. So Waka Kotahi subsidy, we work on the basis of we spend it and then we claim it back. So you will notice under the expenditure, the transportation costs are actually higher. So we have to spend it and then claim it back. This year is the final year of the 3-year NZTA subsidy. So we intend to complete as much work as possible and claim as much back, because we cannot carry forward beyond this year into next year because it's a new training for NZTA.
Apart from the emergency work.
Yes, apart from the emergency.
Thank you.
And so the team at the transportation team also, you may also flow on through with your capital conversation and your question around capital. So the roading team have indicated that they expect to complete all of the roading work and the capital work within this fiscal year, with the possible exception of the speed management review, which we paused for a while when we thought the new government would change the speed management rules relatively quickly. That's turned out to be a longer time frame, so we've lost about 6 months in there. It's unlikely we'll complete all of the speed management work in this fiscal year, but we should expect to complete this resurfacing and the pavement rehabilitation work.
Just a couple of other quick things. Fair value, that's a non-cash item. It's just a balance sheet item, really. Just a quick question about insurance in terms of our expenditure. Have our insurance costs gone up in line with mine? And is that having some sort of impact on our operating expenses?
Currently this year, I think it's slightly higher than budgeted, but next year it's going to be a considerable increase.
something like 38 or 40% increase. What we have done is review the assets that we've insured and made a determination as to would we replace it if it was destroyed. And if the answer to that question is no, we stop insuring it.
Good thinking.
Other questions, Councillor Newman?
Quick question. My favourite one, event income. How do you determine the budgeted revenue on that? How do you come up with that budgeted figure on what you think is going to be the income?
Or a particular, sorry, which one?
Event income.
Event income. So it's just a mathematical calculation based on the number of events, an assumption based on the number of seats we sell within that event, and a price point.
So considering we're at 54% at the moment, does that mean for next year's budget we'll lower what we're budgeting? Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
It also, I'm also really conscious that we've just had one almost completely sold out event.
Yeah.
That was last week. That was absolutely stunning. So we have had a slow period that often slows down over Christmas and New Year, but
So will that have a flow-on effect in next year's budget though? If we're performing lower than we expected this year, will that we then have lower expectations for next year?
we will take that into account. I don't know what we've done in particular to next year.
The other thing here is we've incentive budgeting over the last previous couple of years, the way that the income has been a bit strange. And we've been working with Kyra and we've got it now like getting to a point where it's starting to look right. So in previous years, everything would have been included into that last, the budgeted figure.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's starting to get separated out. So the profit that the event centre's making versus because all of the ticket sales come in and then most of it goes back out if it's a straight hire or a joint venture. So it's we've just been working around getting the budgeting right, which is where this year will look a bit funny. And then in long-term plan with the budgets, I think the income has come down slightly because it's now balancing out, and we'll be able to budget a little bit more.
Okay.
Is that, or is that? I'm not a maths person.
Budget manager.
Perhaps if I could clarify, the previous way the income has been shown as gross.
Okay.
And we're now showing it as net of what we pay to the act coming in.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. I understand it's not necessarily a profit-making thing, but just trying to understand.
Good question.
It's understanding how big the loss is.
And how it.
And what point you review policy.
Yeah.
I understand that. Councillor Creek.
Thanks, Roger. I just had a supplementary, thanks Lou for raising that. I'm just thinking forward, after LTPs are confirmed, depending on Masterton's decision, will that negate us to have to do a report on the sustainability of the event centre moving forward if we're going to be in competition to a potential another town hall or event centre?
That's a really I think it may not be a this year conversation, but I think once Masterton's plans are slightly more than
discussion.
A discussion or an LTP line item, once they become firm and we end up with construction, that's a really good.
So to be clear, because this is a very, I was going to ask this very same question, but on a different part of today's meeting, but the threat assessment or the risk assessment as to what a brand spanking new big town hall competing for business against the Carterton Events Centre is not something we can ignore forever, because it'll be brand spanking new, it'll be marketed to hell, and they will have to do everything they can to make it seen to be profitable, and that will have an impact. The question is, how much of an impact will that impact have on us? And what will we have to do in terms of policy settings and budgeting to offset or deal with that, given that there is clearly no conversation between our two councils about how we can work together on providing that type of facility to the Wairarapa. So it's a good question, and I think it's something that I would expect, Jeff, the management will have to pick up and start looking at once we have a clearer picture of what Masterton's going to do with Dave Foreman's guidance. Yes, Councillor Lawrence.
I have one, well, just point of clarification, just in terms of capex on motor vehicles. I presume the overspend there is the event centre vans.
I did notice that, and I was going to look at that myself. It may be a year-to-date budget issue. It may have been forecast slightly later in the year, and we've brought it forward. So I had that down to check.
But we have replaced that vehicle, have we?
Yes, we have.
Yeah, so that's probably.
Councillor Della.
That was my question too.
Oh, sorry.
And another one.
Pages, sorry. That report.
I'm just looking at, while you're thinking, councillors, of your other questions, because this is your once in 3 months chance, remember that. I was looking at governance costs.
Yeah, we can afford better biscuits.
Well, 590, so, but I don't see, on page 60, operating expenditure, governance, top item, 590, but what I don't see is costs, administration costs, overheads, separated out in terms of wages. Does governance, what does governance include at 590?
So this view is a view of activity.
Okay.
So it's not a rates, personnel, power.
We go into the depth.
It's an activity view of water, roading, transport, waste. So hence the governance line includes all of the costs related to governance, including printing and things like that.
But I didn't think councillors were getting paid anywhere near that.
No, it's all these blooming rainforests that you're using up for printed copies of agendas.
Dale.
I did
Doesn't affect me in the slightest.
I did actually look at the variance there, and I believe that you've got another agenda item that would have been in that is budgeted for that. That is partly the reason why you were behind budget in that area, is the subscription.
Right. Yes. Later on. So there's
later on, yeah.
A subscription to a LG.
Oh, yes, that's in the later one. Yep. Yep. Okay, then we'll deal with that. So the detail is actually in those next 2 pages on 64 and 65, right? Yeah. But it still has governance. So governance is a group head, including democratic services and everything that comes to us. Are there any other questions? There being none, let's move to page 63, recommendations. Going once, going twice, moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Newman. All in favour? Aye. Against? Abstentions. Motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Thank you. And we'll take a break because we're past 3 o'clock. Bye.
So the time now is 7 minutes past 3. We'll